My history is in 1994, I was at a firm that Health Canada hired because a herbalist was suing Health Canada. That Health Canada had seized some herbs this herbalist was importing. And so I acted for Health Canada against this herbalist. And then the following year, I had started my own firm, and Health Canada, in an attempt to shut this herbalist down, convinced the College of Physicians and Surgeons of British Columbia to charge him with practicing medicine without a license, and he hired me to defend him. When I was acting for Health Canada against this gentleman, Health Canada was telling me, isn't it dangerous that we basically have, in their terms was, rogue herbalist, who is selling a treatment for a serious health condition, which was heart disease. And, so people are going to be fooled, and they're going to delay putting off, proper treatment. And I bought into it. I believed it. But then when I was acting for him, I actually learned that the truth was the opposite. On the day of trial, I had 5 middle-class professional witnesses that I just picked for credibility that had all had heart disease. 2 of them were too weak to survive the surgery, so they weren't eligible and were sent home to die. And the other 3 were not willing to go through that surgery again just to buy another year or 2 of life. So for them, the medical system was a dead end. The approved treatments was a dead end. They all come across these heart drops. They all get well. They're all working full time at the time of trial. All of them had been disabled for years, one of them for over a decade. And you can't fake that. You can't fake working full time and being disabled. So that kind of convinced me actually that what Health Canada had told me when I was acting for them was completely wrong. That the reality is the danger is saying to Canadians that they don't have a right to choose how they're going to treat themselves. And the danger is corralling us all into this chemical drug model, which is what David and I are here to talk about, is Health Canada is taking steps to corral us into this one model so that we won't have the right to choose things like these heart drops or other natural remedies. And our natural health practitioners, your naturopathic doctors, your homeopaths, your traditional Chinese practitioners, they won't have the products anymore. This is like full-on assault on our right to choose how we're going to treat ourselves, where we're basically being told we only have one option.
In October of 2000, the first study came to light showing the significant impact that our Empower Plus was having on bipolar. And Health Canada came in literally the next day after the study made national news. And Health Canada came in, they shut down a double-blind placebo-controlled trial that was funded by the Alberta government by over $500,000. So we got to see what Health Canada was up to at that point in time. And then when we fast forward 8 years, we find ourselves, across the country, there's protests in every major city surrounding a bill called Bill C-51, that in essence was the same thing as Bill C-47 that just passed, wherein it was granting Health Canada extraordinary powers to basically just come in and shut down the natural health industry if a particular party in that industry was deemed to be out of line. With significant fines. And so we've seen what Health Canada has been wanting to do to the industry. We've spent 10 years in the courts with Health Canada, battling it out just to even have an existence here in Canada, to have natural products that would help people with mental health conditions where the drugs were failing. And yet Health Canada would try to shut down the science. They would try to suppress us. In fact, at one point in time, they told my dad, if you want to continue doing this here in Canada, perhaps you just want to move south of the border. As if Canadians weren't deserving of a Canadian discovery that could largely benefit their lives. And so there's some serious things to be concerned about with the granting of these extraordinary powers to Health Canada, because they've already abused those powers to the point that they've caused deaths.
I think it's important for your viewers to understand that Canada and the United States are 100% opposite. So in the 1990s, both Health Canada and the FDA in the United States started restricting access to natural health products, trying to corral them into a chemical drug model and impose chemical drug regulations on them. And so we have these 2 rebellions, and both rebellions were so large that governments were forced to look at it. So in the US, the Congress, they had a really hard look at, how should we regulate natural health products? And out of that came legislation called the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act of 1994, where by law, natural health products in the United States are classed as foods. I mean, I can't point to a single death caused by a natural health product in all of Canadian history. And yet, a simple over-the-counter medication like Tylenol kills at least 40 of us a year taken as directed, like just by way of comparison. Well, in Canada, we have the Citizen Rebellion, and we do the opposite. And, the crazy thing is again, our government was forced to look at it. The Standing Committee of Health was asked by then Health Minister Alan Rock in 1998 to look into how should we regulate these products. And the Standing Committee of Health had the broadest consultations of any parliamentary committee in Canadian history and came out with recommendations. And they were clear, you don't regulate these like chemical drugs. Health Canada moved us into the chemical drug model. They're presumed to be dangerous. They're classed as drugs. Health Canada can take them off the market for any reason. In fact, Health Canada doesn't even have to let a product onto the market. You have to get their permission. So I think it's important for people to understand that our whole model is designed to take these products away from us. And we used to be completely unregulated. Like, it's only probably within the last 10 years that most of our products became regulated, and we didn't feel unsafe before. We're still going to have vitamins and minerals on the shelves. They will be in reduced amounts where if you follow the label, they're really going to be meaningless. But they'll still be there for political reasons. We won't have health food stores except the odd one in the largest of cities. And under this new licensing regime, the only products that can be licensed are those for which you would not seek the advice of a healthcare practitioner. So literally over the counter, where you don't seek any advice. So, you want a pain reliever, you go and you grab white willow bark or Tylenol. But if it's for a condition for which you would seek the advice of a healthcare practitioner, and not just a medical doctor, a naturopath, homeopathic doctor, then you can't be licensed under this scheme. And you have to go, the only other pathway for you to be licensed is called the new drug approval process. You can't get through that if you're a natural health product. Like, it's not designed for natural health products. And the average cost is about $1 billion.
You see, there's 35 medical journal publications from universities around the world on the Empower Plus. And yet recently, back in early June, we had to remove those from our website, where no longer does the general public have access to looking at those medical journal publications, because Health Canada didn't approve them, right? The information that was in them, where they talk about, helping ADHD or anxiety or depression or psychosis or even PMS. Health Canada didn't approve those studies. They didn't approve the content found in the studies. And as such, they came in and said, you need to remove those. You need to remove a few of your testimonials. And these are testimonials from real live people that have had success. And we've merely shared them on our website to, really provide meaningful hope to those that are struggling with those same ailments. And so we're already having to revise things. But if they start to exercise these extraordinary powers, they're not just going to come in and say, hey, with a threat that we're going to remove your license. It's going to be a hefty fine, a fine that isn't affordable to the average company out there that's trying to just help the general public in Canada. So we've already lost. The Canadians have already lost a significant amount of products that they once had available to them. And as Shawn says, this is just kind of like, the final blow that's going to really knock the industry out.
Prior to Bill C-47, True Hope's risk of, defying Health Canada, because Health Canada takes the position that you cannot share truthful health information. We're not talking about fraud. There's protection in the Food and Drug Act against fraud. There's protection in the Criminal Code against fraud. There's protection in our Telecommunications Acts against fraud. There's about 3 different, enforcement bodies that protect us against fraud. We're talking about truthful health information. And Health Canada takes the position that all that is able to be said publicly is the label claim. You have to get their permission to sell. Now, Faytene, that doesn't tell you that this product, if you've got, a child with severe bipolar disorder who's getting involuntarily committed to psych wards and is in a cohort where it's a death sentence, they're not going to be here in 5 years. That type of information does not tell you that this might be the product that saves your child's life. True Hope was facing a maximum fine of $5,000 per offense. As of June 22nd, it's $5 million per day of violation. And it doesn't matter that there's a company. The company can be charged and subject to these $5 million day fines. Is Health Canada is imposing the fees that the chemical drug companies pay for product licensing and site licensing, and that they're yearly fees. And they're quite significant fees. So they're going to drive a lot of companies out of business. So we're going to lose their products. But you have to take action now. And so we're actually, wanting to create initiatives even to make Parliament responsive, not just on the natural health product issue, but other issues. So I would really invite your audience, nhppa.org, and that's just stands for the Natural Health Product Protection Association. It's a nonprofit organization that I'm involved with that is just there to protect our health rights. And so we've written a discussion paper. It's about 35 pages long. It's written for the industry, so it's a little technical, but it's understandable. And that will give you will understand the issues when you've read that paper. And there's also a 2-pager, just so if you don't want to go through 35 pages, it's like, okay, well, here's what's happening in a very easy format. We've also right now got a campaign that you can participate in to put pressure on your MPs. Our first step is to wake all the MPs up to what's going on and that we're unhappy about it and we want specific change.